As someone who's been a fan of the Five Nights at Freddy's scene for a while, but only played about half the main games, I've been seeing a lot of theories lately about the pizzeria simulator minigame Midnight Motorist. Specifically, the so-called Later That Night minigame that you can get to from the bottom of the track in that game. I've seen a lot of interpretations of what exactly this Later That Night is trying to tell us, and for the longest time, those interpretations agreed that this minigame shows the family of William Afton, the purple guy shown in Five Nights at Freddy's 2, 3, and 4, and the killer of many children throughout the timeline. Recently, though, people have gotten out of that train of thought, and now the ideas range for who this strange yellow character might be, to not just William, but Henry, William's business partner and co-founder of entertainment, that is, parent of one of Afton's victims, or just some random person with no significance to the lore up to that point. Now, in my opinion, it's probably not just some random person we don't know of. This game was originally meant to be the last game in the series, or at least its chapter of the series, so why would it show us some random red herring that we wouldn't be able to explain with what we know so far? This narrows it down to characters we already know, and the only adult characters I can think of are William Afton, Afton's son Michael, Afton's business partner Henry, or Phone Guy before Phone Guy died in Five Nights at Freddy's 1. Now, keeping in mind that Phone Guy is an employee of Fazbear Entertainment, if the Junior's location we see off to the side of the main path is supposed to be a Freddy restaurant, why would Phone Guy be denied entry? I can only think of two scenarios. First, he's outside during the lockdown that happens in Five Nights at Freddy's 2, trying to get in to rescue Jeremy, but denied access because of that lockdown. Otherwise, it's not a Freddy's, but rather a bar, and Phone Guy is too drunk to be allowed back in. In my opinion, both of these are unlikely, and while we don't know everything about Phone Guy, I do think we know about his story enough for it to be finished. He's an employee of Freddy's, dating back to the Springlock era, then being promoted to the employee trainer for FNAF 2, then after Fritz Smith was fired, he took over the night guard position, continuing it until the Freddy's reopening in FNAF 1, where he finally gets unlucky with the animatronics and meets his end the week before Mike Schmidt takes over. It may not be a completely satisfying story, but it does give us crucial information regarding the Freddy restaurants, and that is Phone Guy's main purpose after all. So I don't think he needs extra backstory in Midnight Motorist. Now, one of the first theories to feature Henry as the Yellow Man went under the assumption that Michael and the crying child aren't Afton's children, but Henry's instead. Now, this does present a problem because the FNAF 4 house was in this minigame. It's very similar, and it wasn't proven at the time that Afton's children were at that house, so this theory did have some credibility, but the problem is, while Sister Location did partially confirm that the crying child was William's son, it wasn't fully confirmed until Security Breach showed us an Easter egg that can be found after escaping Shattered Chica that shows the sets of inactive staff bots that are clearly meant to resemble the Afton family, one being Afton's daughter, Circus Baby, and one looking strangely like Ballora, which not only confirms that Ballora is meant to resemble Afton, part of Afton's daughter's family, but by association, Afton's wife. The crying child is also present at the table in the form of a staff bot missing his head, alluding to the bite of 83. If this table was meant to confirm long-standing theories, then why would it imply that Afton's other son isn't Michael? As such, I feel like this table debunks completely the idea that Michael is Henry's son, and regardless of whether it does or not, it definitely debunks the idea that the crying child is Henry's son. So if this isn't Henry as Michael's dad, could it be Henry as Charlie, aka the puppet's dad? In the Silver Eyes novel trilogy, Henry has a son that goes unmentioned in the game series, but that doesn't mean he doesn't exist in the game series. The Later That Night in the file name of this minigame segment could refer to the night Charlie died, as so many have assumed in the past. If it is, Henry still likely has a surviving son, Sammy. Henry, being the owner of Fazbear Entertainment, could live in this house near a Freddy or Fredbear location, which explains where the runaway went when the yellow man mentions that place again. This is unlikely to be Charlie's grave though, because why would Sammy just now know of his sister being killed? Plus, Charlie's corpse was next to the puppet, and it seems unlikely that Henry would have found her, let alone even know that she's dead, and probably just report her missing. But even if he did find her, and maybe called his wife, or Sammy, this would explain why the person on the couch says that the runaway had a rough day after learning of Charlie's death, given that they may be Henry's wife. But the problem is, if Henry did take Charlie's corpse and bury it, if Sammy is looking for that grave, problem is that the yellow man says that the runaway ran to that place again. What reason would Sammy have to run to Charlie's grave again if she wasn't dead before? As such, I don't believe that this is Henry either, but I do think I have an answer. The principle of Occam's razor states that the most likely explanation requires the fewest unknown assumptions. The house does look similar to Afton's in FNAF 4, and as it's raining as a purple car is being driven past Fredbear's after Charlie's death, and the minigame where Charlie dies also shows rain, it would make sense that those are on the same night. Since the location relative to the house where Fredbear's would be is now a place called Junior's, it's likely that Fredbear's already shut down and the building was sold to an alcohol establishment. This would mean that the crying child is already dead and therefore can't be the runaway as many assume. Thus, the person on the couch likely isn't Michael, but rather Afton's wife or an older family member or an older babysitter. Whether this happens before or after Elizabeth's death isn't important to the plot of this mini-game by itself, in its own context. Michael likely feels guilty for indirectly killing the crying child and has perhaps run off to where his brother is buried, which he's likely done before according to Afton, this time by breaking out of the window, since Afton keeps his door locked. Since this narrative requires the fewest uncertain assumptions and goes off strong evidence we already have, it's a pretty strong narrative with pretty strong evidence, so for now, it's the one that I personally believe. But if you believe a different narrative in regards to this minigame, or my reasoning in general, feel free to let me know in the comments. If you can afford to support me financially, feel free, but don't feel compelled to attach a few dollars via super thanks with your comment. If you liked this video, press the like button, and if you want to see even more, press subscribe as well, and set how many notifications you'd like to receive. Memberships offer basic features at this time, but they only cost 99 cents a month, which is less than 4 cents a day. So if you want to join, feel free. Whether you do any of that or not, though, I appreciate you watching this video, so stay safe, stay cool, and I'll see you later.